Are you a stressed out mom looking for some relief? Do you love motherhood but wish it wasn't so stressful at times? Today on the Fearless Future podcast by the Guiding Star Project, we're going to talk about what it looks like to stress less and mother more, finding balance in this incredible journey that is parenthood. That's what's coming up today on the Fearless Future podcast.
Welcome to the Fearless Future podcast, where your hosts Lisa Canning and Leah Jacobson will explore what the world would look like if women didn't fear pregnancy. Through education, community, and healthcare solutions, Guiding Star Project strives to make this a reality at our physical centers across the United States. Join us.
Hey everybody, it's Lisa Canning here. So happy to spend some time with you today. My wonderful co-host Leah Jacobson is on a little break today. She is not able to join us. We'll have her back very soon. Today, I want to talk about stress and how it can have such an impact on our health and such an impact on the way that we mother. And when you think about the mission that we have here at the Guiding Star Project, a healthcare movement, one where we have a vision of a future where no woman fears pregnancy. And we make that a reality through education, community, and healthcare solutions at our physical centers across the United States. When you think of that mission, of course, a conversation needs to be had of the impact of stress and how it can create fear, the impact of stress on motherhood in general, the impact of stress on our general well-being, on our health, on our outlook for the future. So I do think that this is a very important conversation. Stress less, mother more, finding balance in parenthood. And I want to pause for just a moment and invite you to reflect on your own journey right now, wherever you are listening to this, wherever you are watching this, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, 10 being the highest you have felt ever in your life, how much stress do you feel like you are carrying right now? And just take a moment to take stock of what is going on. I think there's a lot of conversations out there on social media, on podcasts, what have you, where there's an acknowledgement of stress. There's an acknowledgement. There's like an awareness. Yes, all mothers in stress. And I find it very interesting, this like wine and coffee kind of culture that we can speak very lightheartedly about in motherhood, like, oh, I survive on coffee and wine, Again, this is lighthearted. I enjoy myself a great cup of coffee. I enjoy myself a great glass of wine. But if we peel back the layers on what those statements are saying about motherhood, it can paint a not so pretty picture that the only way to get through the day is surviving on these different substances. What I want this podcast to equip you with, what I would love for this podcast to become, is a little tool in your toolbox, a little tool that you can just, slide away there under 6 podcasts. And when you are having a particularly stressed out moment, when you're having a particularly frustrating experience in your motherhood, in your parenthood journey, that you can come back to these tools, come back to some of these concepts and feel a sense of refresh, a sense of reset, a sense of empowerment, as opposed to victimhood. And that's what I think I'm trying to say here with the wine and coffee. We are not victims to motherhood. We are not victims to our lives. It can sometimes feel like that when it is truly overwhelming. But we can find agency. We can develop healthy habits that allow us to thrive and take care of ourselves regardless of the external stressors that are going on. So I'm going to offer a couple of different principles and strategies that I hope can be very, very helpful to you. Please connect with us on social media and let us know what you think about these strategies. What has helped you? I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on how you manage stress and how some of the principles that I'm going to share with you in this podcast help you in your life. All right, let's go. The first strategy that I want to offer that will help you to stress less and mother more is the concept of mindset. So when you hear the word mindset, it can be a little bit sometimes confusing. Perhaps you might think of meditation, or perhaps you might think of your outlook on life. Mindset, the way that I want to talk about it right now, is essentially how your thoughts influence your life, just to put it that plainly. How your thoughts influence your life. And it's very important to note that the impact of our thoughts can very much impact the quality of our life. I've been reading a really great book, Rewire. All your thoughts and create lasting change. Change your mind, change your life, by Nicole Vignola. Really great brand new book that's just come out. Really great basic concepts. Not that the book is basic, but if you are looking for a book that explains neuroscience in a very understanding, accessible way, this is a great book for you. But one of the things that I think we can forget is that we are not born with low self-esteem. We are not born with ruminating thoughts. And I challenge you to observe how a toddler, especially, my Andrew, my 9th baby, he is will be 2 in December, and confidence that this child has, like he goes into the world and he's like, I'm here. Everyone, watch me. Like he has no sense of low confidence. He has all the confidence in the world. We are not born with low self-esteem. Our thoughts about ourselves, our self-concept, is created over time via the messages that are told us, by the love that we receive, by the love that potentially we are denied, by the love that we think we deserve. All those kinds of things make up our self-esteem, our self-worth, our self-concept. Inside Out 2 is a movie that just came out at time of this recording, and it provides a beautiful visual representation of how our self-concept is created. So I absolutely encourage people to go watch Inside Out 2. But here's it at its most basic core, and why it's so important to me and our work here at the Guiding Star Project is that our mental health is going to be impacted hugely by how we think. And then, of course, our children's mental health is going to be impacted hugely by the way we think. And how I want people to really understand our brains is that we will have a thought, which will then create a feeling, an emotion in us, which then will promote an action. And when we have these thought loops over time, what they're literally doing is creating grooves in our brain that over time become very ingrained. This is how we get those, stubborn thoughts, or if you've ever been described as hard-headed, like this is how these very established patterns get created. We have a thought that creates a feeling that then produces an action. And so let's just go with a very quick example. In motherhood, let's just take motherhood is always hard. Like even just that phrase, motherhood is always hard. I want to invite you to just listen to that phrase and take note of the physical response that happens in your body. And observe, see if you can give name to the emotion that you're feeling when you hear that phrase, motherhood is always hard. In myself, I feel very discouraged. Like that's not a positive, like it just makes me feel deflated. And when I'm deflated, I'm not motivated to do many things, right? And the challenge is if you just keep telling yourself motherhood is always hard, motherhood is always hard, there's no curiosity. There's no, I would say, like optimism there. You might not be inclined to try something new, to forge ahead on something that you have been thinking about and feel excited about, a gift or a talent, you know? Here's another thought. I could never do that with small children. I could never do that with small children. Whatever the could never do that. Could be starting a business, could be going back to work, could be writing a book, could be volunteering at the school. I could never do that with small children. When we can be very aware that we're thinking these ways, and again, reminder, we're not born with negative thought patterns. Our thoughts and our attachment to thoughts can very much be a result of our influences, our childhood, our influences around us at various stages in our life. And so the wonderful hope here is that you can change your thoughts. You can change your thoughts just as easily as you hit backspace on an Instagram post. And let's use the example that I just shared. Motherhood is always hard. Motherhood is sometimes hard, and that's okay. Motherhood is sometimes hard, but I can do hard things. Again, I invite you to just observe what's the emotional response you have to either one of those sentences. And I would hazard to guess that it's slightly more positive, and it would produce a slightly more positive outcome. One thought that I have been really challenging myself around is exercise. I was on a really, really great streak for about 2 weeks just recently, like just prior to this time of recording. And I remember sharing with Leah, sharing with the team that I was so excited about the progress that I was making, that I was feeling so strong. And then I can't remember exactly the trigger. I think it was one of my kids' birthdays, if I'm being honest. And I went back to not so healthy habits. And then those not so healthy habits just continued post birthday, you know? And so I've been not acknowledging that I have a lot of negative thoughts around my ability to exercise and my ability to change healthy habits. I've been thinking thoughts like, what's the point of starting again? You're just going to fail. This produces nothing good. And so I have been challenging myself to take that thought and reframe it. What is a way that I can reframe, what's the point of starting again? You always fail. And for me, I'm very motivated by challenges. And so I try to be competitive with myself. And I will sometimes try to just be like, let's see just how fast you can try again. I bet you, Lisa, you can try again really fast. And that really motivates my competitive nature. And so I want to pause for a moment of reflection here. What is one thought in your motherhood, in your parenthood? Maybe it's around your health, maybe it's around the home. What is one thought that you really need to stop thinking right now? What's one thought that you really need to stop thinking right now? And you need to stop thinking it because it's not serving you in your motherhood, in your home life, in what you're called to do. What's one thought you really need to stop thinking? Why this is so important, why this question can be so helpful is, of course, our thoughts are going to impact how much stress there is in our lives. And I want to share, this is from page 47 of this book, Rewire, Nicola Vignola. And it's a little graph that she is showing that expresses the chronic stress response. So there is some kind of a stressor. So let's just say your child spills the entire bag of Cheerios all over the kitchen floor. Okay, so that's the stressor. Your sympathetic stress reaction is going to happen. So your brain is going to fire off a whole bunch of messages to you that this is the worst thing in the world. You're already tired. How can you clean up another mess? You can't believe that your child did that. Your child doesn't listen. Like all these different thoughts are going to be flooding, and your brain is trying to keep you safe. Even though we know that spilling Cheerios all over the floor might not be that big a deal, in that moment, especially if mess is a big trigger for you, you might have a really high sympathetic stress reaction. And then we calm down, we calm down, we calm down. But if we have an inability to regulate, and there's a lot of different things that might impact on inability to regulate. It might be that this happens all the time. It might be that yet another box is spilled or milk is spilled right when you're cleaning up the first mess. You might have an inability to regulate over time, and then an inability to come back to normal. This is a beautiful example, or a beautiful way to visualize chronic stress. And so where these thoughts, where this understanding of the mind can be so helpful is in those moments when you are tempted to have a very stressful response. We can actually rewire the patterns that we have around some of these stressors. So let's just go back to the Cheerios, right? You might be telling yourself something like, I'm so tired, I can't possibly clean up another mess. That might be a subconscious thought that you're having that is causing you to have that stressful response. If we can back that up a little bit and give ourselves lots of space to acknowledge that it's stressful sometimes when there's a lot of mess, but that it's not the same thing as being chased by a lion. The thing with stress in the brain is that our brain doesn't know the difference between Cheerios spilled on the floor and being chased by a lion unless we tell it. And for some people, mess might have been a big trigger in their home of origin. Mess might have been, just something that was to be avoided at all costs, or there might have been some kind of messaging around mess equals bad, right? And so this is why the mind and work in this area can just be so powerful, because we can start to gently reframe, gently introduce to the brain that it's not duress, that you're going to be okay, and that these thoughts can be altered for your good. And the beautiful fruits that can happen, I'm a trained mindset coach. This is what I love walking my clients through. The beautiful fruits that can happen as a result of being more aware of our thoughts is less stress in the home, less yelling, a more gentle approach to motherhood. And who doesn't want that? So, first principle or first strategy to stress less and mother more is to just be very aware of your mindset and understand the relationship between thoughts and feelings and actions. The second principle that I want to unpack today to help us all have less stress in the home is, of course, skill set. So we've got the mindset, but we've also got just straight up skills. And what do I mean by this? I mean just things that we can learn, concepts that we can understand, ways that we can better ourselves in habits that can, again, lead to great fruits and less stress in the home. And the first thing that I think is really important, and of course, as a healthcare movement, we care a lot about at the Guiding Star Project, is healthy habits like sleep, diet, and exercise. Sleep, diet, and exercise can have incredible impacts on our hormonal health, incredible impacts on our fertility, and our overall ability to cope with stressors in the day. I want to give a very personal example. I've got 10 kids They're all home for summer. I've been wanting to spend a lot of time with them. And so for a very, very long time, this is outside of even the summer holidays, I have prioritized working in the evening. And so I will put my infant to bed, nurse her to sleep, and then I will jump into several hours of work. But then I'm, of course, completely like wired, and it's midnight, 1 a.m., and I'm still up and I'm still at them. And that has been impacting, obviously, my cognitive abilities the next day. And so I've had to make some massive, massive sort of, course corrections, changing my habits. And it's fantastic and amazing what happens when you get more than 6 hours of sleep a night. It's kind of amazing. The world looks very different. And so I've noticed just personally that I respond to stress in a very different way when I have gotten more sleep. And so these very, very basic principles that we can, of course, ignore when we are moms. How many of us stay up late watching TV? How many of us will opt for the very convenient thing to eat as opposed to the healthier option? Of course, very normal and very natural. But again, this comes back to mindset. You can have a thought like, it's just easier if I order McDonald's Uber Eats, right? It's just, you can have that thought, this is easier. But you can also have a thought, future me will thank me for making a chicken salad. There's so many different ways that at that point of inflection, when we can go one way or the other, that we can rely on and create, again, those neural pathways. Perhaps for a long time, that became just a pattern. I'm just going to order in, or I'm just going to, eat the chicken nuggets that I made my kids, right? That's a pattern. But we can create a new one that's going to help you and bless you and reduce the stress in your life. So one area of skills that can definitely learn and definitely grow are sleep, diet, and exercise. Another area of skill set that perhaps sometimes I wonder that people can go into motherhood and not realize I can actually grow in this area. There are actually mentors that I can look to grow in these areas where I have lack, are household and parenting skills. And so let's unpack this area a little bit. Household. As a mom of 10, I have had so many kind of like SOS cries of like, there's got to be an easier way to do laundry. There's got to be an easier way to manage, morning routine, evening routine. And so across, the years of my motherhood career, I've looked to different experts. I have asked my friends who are ahead of me on the journey. I've asked mom friends who, are more attuned to products and hacks that can make my life a lot easier when it comes to systems in my home. There are so many ways that one can improve the way that a house is run. And again, this comes back to an awareness in motherhood that perhaps the way there are some things that you did in your family of origin that can help you tremendously, but there might also be ways that technologies have grown, access to resources are different, that you can learn, of course, a new way of doing something. And that this new way isn't necessarily bad, right? And so just straight up household skills, how even things like paper gets dealt with when it comes in the door. There's no shortage of ways that one can grow in skills when it comes to the home. And then, of course, parenting. There are many different approaches to how one disciplines children, talks to children, the awareness around the ways that we speak and all these things. There are a gamut of skills that can be learned in terms of the way that we parent. I'm a work in progress in this all the time. And then a final thing that I think is very, very important when it comes to stress is it's literally a skill. This is something that I talk about with my clients all the time. It is literally a skill to know how to take a break. And I know this can sound funny, like, no, it's not a skill, Lisa. Like taking a break is not a skill. I can't tell you how many moms I talk to who feel guilty for taking time to themselves, who feel guilty for wanting time alone, who feel guilty for asking for babysitting for something other than, doctor's appointments, right? And this is where it's paramount when it comes to stress. And again, I remember there was an article circulating around sometimes rest is not a bubble bath. Like, that's not the kind of rest I want. It's not the rest that comes in a manicure. Like, sometimes that rest is that really necessary time away from technology, time away from external triggers, maybe more time in nature. But let's not make it so that we get to a breaking point where a mom has a mental health crisis and that's the only time that she's taking a break. This is why I believe that it's a skill set to ask for help. And how do you do it? You literally just say, hey, husband, hey, sister, hey, mom, I am really struggling and I would love more time to myself. What can we arrange so that this becomes a regular part of the week? And that's the part, as a mindset coach and as a productivity expert, as one who has done a lot of reading and research and personal trial and error when it comes to an approach to work, to life, to balance, to all the things. There are many ways that one can do this, but it begins with asking. And if we have a hard time asking for help, then we've got to examine the thoughts that are leading you to feel like you can't ask. Thoughts like, I don't deserve it. Thoughts like, he'll say no. Thoughts like, I have no one to help me. Thoughts like, if I wanted to have this many kids, I should be able to do this all on my own. Any of these thoughts are not going to help you in your pursuit of less stress and more peace. They may be true. You might talk to your husband and he may say, no, I don't have time for that. That might happen. But there might be all kinds of other possibilities that you have not thought of. And so to continue to remain curious, to continue to ask for help, to continue to find unique ways. And I'll just share a couple of unique ways that have worked for me over the years. And perhaps this is honestly an entire other podcast, how to get more help. But I'll just share a couple of principles that I think are a couple of ideas, some strategies. I love swapping with other moms. So if you really don't have a reliable source of childcare, find a mom in your community who also is looking for this kind of help and swap with her. You take all the kids one day, she takes all the kids another day. You know that you both have this regular pause in the week, a regular cadence where you are helping each other in this way. I love also, depending on the stage of your family, there are a lot of things that can be entrusted to children, even young children, so that again, you can at least get a little bit of relief. But it is a skill to master how to ask for help and set up these different boundaries and frameworks in a family's life so that your mental health as a mom can be supported. And so, one question that I want to pause and invite you to reflect on is, what is one skill that you will intentionally work on this week ahead? And then finally, the importance of community to stress less and mother more. Similar to what I was just talking about swapping with a mom. The importance of this kind of physical support, like literally somebody who can hold your baby. Like right now, my infant, Lucy, is being held by one of her older siblings. This ability for a mom to literally have a moment where she's not holding anybody, where she's not doing anything, is so, so important. This is why at our Guiding Star centers, we offer Child Watch. We offer the ability for a mom to come in and have her appointment without her children, have her appointment with some privacy, and her children being well cared for while she's on the premises. That is why that is such a tenet of the Guiding Star philosophy. We just all need a break, and we all reach a breaking point. When I go back to this graph of chronic stress response and the failure to recover over time, right? When our sympathetic and our parasympathetic systems are unable to come back down and relax, it's a problem, right? And so the importance of community, the importance of finding those people that can come around you. And we did a whole podcast episode on the importance of community and why it's so important to us here at Guiding Star. And so I invite you to listen to that past episode. And then, of course, what community does, it also provides you accountability. So if we are looking to stress less and mother more, sometimes having a friend in your corner saying, hey, Lisa, you got this. You can do your workout in today. It's okay that you didn't get up this morning and do it. You can still do it at some point in the day. You can do it. Let's try it. I do co-working sessions often for this ability to have some accountability. Having a friend who will just sit with you and work on something else while you are working on something can be very, very helpful to get things done. And again, like if you are trying to work on the skill of yelling less in the home because it causes more stress among all the family members, to have somebody that you can text and be like, gosh, I blew it again, but hey, I made a repair and I am starting again. To have that kind of accountability can be so, so helpful. At the end of the day, what I really hope that you can take away from this podcast is that you have agency. Motherhood does not have to be something that we simply survive, although, of course, it can feel that way. And of course, there are elements to motherhood that can be so challenging. But what I hope you take away from today's podcast is that you have a choice in how you respond to literally anything in motherhood. And the more that we can remember that and realize that and believe it, the quality of our life, the quality of our relationships can change dramatically. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Fearless Future podcast by the Guiding Star Project. If you know someone in your life that would be blessed by this episode, would you please share it with them? Would you spread the word about this podcast? Download it, subscribe wherever you are listening or watching. We appreciate it so, so much. We will see you next time. And thank you for linking arms with us in our pursuit to create a future where no woman fears pregnancy.